Paris has one of the highest numbers of Michelin-starred restaurants in the world. You can literally walk a few blocks and run into one. Competition drives down the prices, and some of the most affordable starred meals in the world are right here. Sometimes less than 50 euros. That sounds like a deal, but does it actually live up to the Michelin standard? So we tried some of the most affordable Michelin-starred meals in the city to find out. And in the end, we're going to rate each one and see which of these actually feels like a true Michelin star experience and which ones don't. One of the reasons Michelin dining in Paris can actually be affordable is because many restaurants offer preset lunch menus at a fraction of their dinner prices. So today, we're testing two of these lunch menus, starting with Ze Kitchen Galerie, a French-Japanese fusion restaurant. Right away, this place feels a little different. Designer furniture and tableware set against these bold, colorful paintings. It's modern, but not cold. And the lunch menu here is quite flexible. You can do 2 courses for 43 euros or 3 for 49 euros, which, for a Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris, is kind of wild. We're first served a sweet potato soup with a touch of citrus. Warm, but not heavy thanks to the citrus. And alongside that, some sourdough bread. Simple, but exactly what we needed after a morning at the museum. The starters immediately established the fusion theme. I had the foie gras dumpling with duck broth. The dumpling was bursting with fattiness, exactly what you'd expect from foie gras. And the duck broth is heavenly. There is also a clever inclusion of kimchi in the base, a sharp, acidic counterpoint that prevents the fat from becoming overwhelming. Across the table, my wife chose the kampachi sashimi with green curry. This dish took a different route. You don't often see raw fish paired with green curry, but the clean profile of the kampachi actually holds its own against that aromatic heat. So overall, the starters felt thoughtful, a little unexpected, and we thoroughly enjoyed them. For the mains, I went with the sea bass, again paired with green curry, celeriac, and a touch of sea urchin. And this was a phenomenal dish. The fish is cooked perfectly, incredibly tender, just barely holding together as you cut into it. The sauce is rich and creamy, and the sea urchin blends into it seamlessly, adding depth without overpowering the dish. That said, if you went with green curry for both your starter and your main, I can see this starting to feel a little repetitive. On the other side, she had the veal, served with kimchi and a black garlic sauce. The execution here is solid. The veal is cooked well, the sauce is deep and savory, but again, you start to notice a pattern. The kimchi element shows up here as well, and while it works, it does make the overall experience feel slightly less varied than you'd expect. For dessert, I was the only one who went for it, and I had to try their signature white chocolate and wasabi ice cream. I couldn't quite believe it when I saw it, but I do like trying new things. And surprisingly, it works. The sweetness of the white chocolate is balanced by that subtle wasabi kick. Not overpowering, just enough to keep it interesting. There's also a citrus element that brings in some acidity, which ties everything together. So overall, a really thoughtful and well-executed dessert. However, as we were having dessert, it felt like the kitchen was starting to shut down for their lunch break. And at one point, we were basically the only table left in the restaurant. We weren't late, and we weren't eating particularly slowly, but it did feel like the service was winding down around us. And that created this subtle pressure to finish quickly and ask for the bill, which kind of took away from the ending of the meal. Now, in terms of pricing, there is one detail that's worth paying attention to. If you look closely at the menu, only the mushroom soup starter comes with no extra cost. Both of our choices had supplements, about 10 euros and 15 euros each, which isn't unusual, but it does add up. That feels a little limiting, especially since this isn't mentioned on their website. So in the end, we actually paid closer to 60 euros per person. So while the food itself is delicious, the overall experience, from the pricing structure to the way the service ended, feels a little inconsistent. So for Ze Kitchen Galerie, this one gets a question mark. So after that slightly mixed experience, we wanted to try something a little more traditional. Another 47 euro lunch, but this time at Auguste, a classic French Michelin-starred restaurant. And this one turned out to be a very different experience. The vibe here is elegant and modern, but in a much more understated, classic way. Right from the start, we're given a couple of amuse-bouche, two small cheese bites, one of them with a subtle smokiness. A simple but promising start. The lunch menu here is a fixed 3-course menu, and for the starter, we both couldn't resist the escargot soup. Now we've had escargot before, but never in this form, so we didn't know what to expect. And this one exceeded expectations. The aroma is incredible, very herb forward, with a strong presence of tarragon. The texture is thick and creamy, but still feels refined rather than heavy. And the portion size is quite decent. Each bowl has more than 10 snails, which makes it feel substantial. Not just a tasting portion, but something you can really sit with and enjoy. For the mains, I went with the hake, served with butternut squash and a hollandaise sauce. And technically, it has everything you'd want. The skin is crisp, the fish is flaky, and with the squash and hollandaise, each bite has a slightly different balance of richness and sweetness. Overall, a delicious dish. But the real surprise was the chicken breast my wife got. We went in with pretty low expectations. If you've ever had chicken breast as a workout meal, you know how dry it can be. But this one, with the glazed skin, is incredibly juicy and packed with flavor. It's the kind of dish that completely changes your expectations. And honestly, I kind of regretted ordering the fish. One thing to note, the hake does come with a €22 supplement. We chose it mainly to try both options, but in hindsight, the chicken might be the better choice here. For dessert, there's only one option, a coconut rice pudding. Nothing overly elaborate, but it does exactly what it's meant to do. We were also pleasantly surprised to be served a couple of sweets at the end, something we didn't get in the previous experience. The bonbon was a bit on the sweeter side for me, but overall a nice way to finish the meal. And stepping back, I think this place really delivers strong value for a Michelin-starred lunch. The cooking is solid across the board, and more importantly, the experience feels complete from start to finish. At €47, it's hard to ask for much more. Yes, supplements can bring it closer to €60 per person, but unlike the previous restaurant, you can have a great experience here without feeling like you need to upgrade. So for Auguste, this one gets a check mark. So at this point, we've seen what around €50 can get you in Paris, and it can be pretty impressive. But lunch is also a much shorter experience. So we wanted to see if you could still have a proper Michelin-star dinner without completely blowing the budget. So for dinner, we went to Alan Geaam to see what that actually looks like. Located just steps from the Arc de Triomphe, Alan Geaam offers a unique blend of French and Middle Eastern cuisine. The space feels refined yet warm, reflecting that fusion in both the food and the atmosphere. For dinner, we went with the 5-course tasting menu. We sat down and the experience began quietly, with a cup of tea. And then, a few minutes later, we were asked to inspect the small plant placed in front of us. A few of the leaves look slightly different. The show has already started. One of the leaves is a cracker, seasoned with Middle Eastern spices. I love the presentation here. It's playful, unexpected, and the spices immediately set the tone. A very strong start. Next up, an aged Lebanese cheese paired with caviar. It's a beautiful combination. The deep, nutty flavor of the cheese, balanced by the brightness and salinity of the caviar. But this is really just the beginning. What follows is a sequence of 4 amuse-bouches. Suddenly, it feels like a burst of flavors all at once. There's a mini falafel with a chickpea dressing, a baba ganoush served in a crisp cone, and a Middle Eastern yogurt with plum, presented in the shape of an oyster shell. You can really see the identity of the kitchen here. Middle Eastern flavors executed with French technique. And what stands out is the variation. In texture, in presentation, in temperature, each bite feels distinct. It's an incredibly enjoyable sequence. Although, with a few of the dishes leaning into similar hummus-based flavors, I can see how it might start to feel slightly repetitive. There's also an odd tray of peanuts, and once again, we're asked to take a closer look. Because not all of them are what they seem. One of the peanuts is actually foie gras, shaped to blend right in. It's paired with a bit of peanut and citrus, which keeps it from getting too heavy. A clever idea, and one I definitely didn't see coming. And it is crazy to say, but we're still not done yet. There's one more bite, hidden under the falafel plate the entire time. A small crab dish with carrot and tarragon gel. Clean and saline, with a nice contrast in texture. A great way to finish the starters. Then we're served a cube of brioche. Two options on the side, a traditional French butter or an olive oil blended with Lebanese spices. And just look at the bread. Crisp on the outside, soft and airy inside. And the smell from the spices is out of control. Easily one of the most satisfying bread courses we've had in Paris. And by the way, if it already feels like a lot, none of this is part of the 5 courses. We haven't even started on the first course yet. The first official course is a turnip, served in a warm, foamy broth and generously topped with black truffle. You break into the dome, and inside there's a perfectly runny egg yolk. It's rich and aromatic, the truffle is used confidently but never overwhelms the dish. And as if that wasn't enough, there's also a small portion of black truffle soup on the side, just to push that flavor even further. Next, a langoustine served in 2 preparations. The tail is grilled with a Lebanese-style marinade, finished with kumquat and herbs. And on the side, the claws are fried. It's a great contrast, both in texture and in flavor. The tail is cooked perfectly, with that light char from the grill, and the marinade brings a bold flavor. I also really appreciate that nothing goes to waste here. The claws aren't just an afterthought, but turned into something crisp and playful. It's a combination I haven't had before, and we really loved it. But the main course is where it really takes things to another level. We're given a choice between sea bass and veal, so we went with one of each. And instead of going straight into the mains, it starts with a series of smaller bites. First, a tartlet, either sea bass sashimi or veal tartare. Then, a warm course, a steamed sea bass wrapped in greens and a beef dumpling with pine nuts. It's a thoughtful progression, showing the same ingredients in different forms, raw and minced. And just when you think that's it, the actual mains arrive. A beautifully marbled sea bass, served with 3 different sauces and a veal steak with sweetbreads on the side. The cooking is excellent across the board. Great texture on both the fish and the veal. And with multiple sauces, each bite feels different. If anything, we almost wish there was more meat, just to fully explore all the combinations. But overall, it's a stunning presentation. Multiple stages, different textures, and a real sense of progression, without ever feeling repetitive. Even the desserts keep that same level of execution. The first is an artichoke creme brulee, elegant, well-balanced, and beautifully presented. But the second one is the real star. Each piece is shaped like a honeycomb, with citrus woven into the flavor alongside the honey. It's both visually striking and very well executed. And on the side, another odd tray of citrus. At this point, I'm already suspicious. So I go straight for the fake one, and it bursts with citrus juice the moment you bite into it. It's playful, a little unexpected, and it keeps the entire meal feeling light and fun. You can tell the chef really enjoys building in these small moments of surprise. And the chef won't allow a sloppy ending either. Even the petit fours come with a bit of surprise. There's a lollipop with a Middle Eastern milk pudding flavor, and a blueberry compote served like a tube of toothpaste. It's very on brand with everything we've seen so far. I definitely took my time with the lollipop, but at this point, we were completely full. So the bonbons ended up coming home with us. Needless to say, my experience at Alan Geaam exceeded expectations. We didn't go for the full 8-course tasting menu. Instead, we chose the 5-course to keep the cost down, and I was honestly a bit worried it might feel limited. But if anything, the restaurant is underselling it. With the number of amuse-bouches and the multiple preparations throughout the meal, it easily feels like something much more extensive. And the key point is, they didn't have to do all of that. So in terms of value, Alan Geaam really delivers it, and then some. As for the price, it comes out to 148 euros per person. And while that's certainly not cheap, the value you're getting here is actually quite hard to find. And to put that into perspective, we've also dined at a 3 Michelin-star restaurant in Paris for more than triple the price. And honestly, I would take this experience over that any day. If you're interested in more of these dining experiences and reviews, be sure to subscribe. There's something about Paris. The spaces are tight, the kitchens are often small, but somehow they make it all work. Maybe it's my research that paid off, or maybe it's just a city where food and culture naturally come together, often at a value that's hard to beat. Either way, I'll definitely be back. That's it for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.